What up guys, it's Jordan here and welcome back to another MDL Pro Tips powered by Mountain Dew Game Fuel. Today we're going to be talking about winning more gunfights and more specifically a couple key concepts around that, such as shooting styles, angles, and movement. Before we jump into that, I want to make a statement, something kind of overarching that I think is very key to winning more gunfights in Counter-Strike. When you're playing, you want to be focused on the game. You want to be focused on your situation. You want to be focused on whatever is in front of you and on radar. You want to keep your thoughts regarding, should I burst, should I tap, should I spray, or, how should I stand, all this stuff. You want to keep them very minimal and almost subconscious. Positioning and where you stand and some of the things I'm going to talk about are things you can think about, and especially as you're first getting into some of these concepts. Sure, thinking about them a little bit isn't the end of the world because that's how you kind of consciously make some of these decisions and adjust away from what you're currently doing so that you're implementing new habits. But overall, if you hear the greats like Forrest or Zet back in the day or any of the good aimers, you hear them talk about how things are subconscious and smooth and they're not thinking about their crosshair or their aim at all when they're on point. They're simply playing the game. And, that's a whole separate conversation maybe about flow state. And you guys could look that up and someone else talk about that in athletics and sports and stuff. But in this case, the first key concept I want you to talk about or think about is keeping your thoughts very subconscious when you're playing when it comes to aim and shooting style. You want to just make it second nature. All right, so first things first, we will talk about shooting style. Should you tap? Should you burst? Should you spray? Another kind of general thing here. When it comes to shooting style, the first thing I want to remember, guys, is to not limit yourself to one style per each distance. You don't want to say, okay, this guy's on balcony, so I can only tap him. Or this guy's wrapped, so I can only spray him right here, right? You want to stay flexible with your shooting style. So yes, all these different distances provide something easy and straightforward. That makes sense. So tapping, yes. Tapping here comes in play, but you notice what I'm doing while I'm tapping? How I'm moving. We're going to get to that in a minute. When we're spraying a position like here, there's a difference of me spraying from right here and spraying out here. I'm in the open, so we're going to talk about movement in a second. But my first point I wanted to make about shooting style, guys, is you don't want to be thinking about tap, burst, or spray. You just want to get comfortable with all three so that it's more second nature to these other points I'm going to bring up, which have to do with positioning and movement. All right? Next up, movement, right? The main purpose to me of movement when you're in fights is to be evasive and to potentially stay alive depending on where you're caught. So in this example right here, right? If you know 3 guys are coming up porch and you want to get a kill, playing this angle is probably a little bit better than this angle, but potentially the same in this case if you can get away. But if you get caught in the open right here and you can't strafe away and there's a guy on balcony, then that's bad because now you're basically getting traded. You can't always do something about it, but something like this might be better if you want to get a kill with like an op and stay alive versus here, because when you fall back, they might already be about balcony. Now, that's maybe not the most excellent example. I'm kind of doing that example on the fly as I'm thinking about the key concept here is when you're moving or taking a fight, your movement is regarding, are you going to be able to stay alive or not? Now, if you're not going to be able to stay alive, then don't worry about it. Focus on getting a kill, right? Don't think about the triple kill. Yes, that's awesome if you want to line them up. Spraying and carrying the spray is part of practicing recoil control, and the only way to practice carrying sprays is to doing it over and over, right? Practice over and over, carrying sprays in your own server like I'm doing to where it becomes comfortable. But what we're talking about here is positioning and movement. When you're using movement, the two things about it are being evasive, and the second one is being annoying and hard to hit. So the reason you want to duck or stand most of the time is to just manipulate what you look like to your enemy. So if they peek you right here and they start shooting at you and they don't hit you right away, if you move and then duck, their cross starts to follow you and then drop if they want to hit head level, right? So that's a lot of times why, say you think they're rifling, or especially if it's just one guy coming up porch. I don't like standing at an angle like this, and I'll get to that in a second because I think it's an on angle, meaning he's peeking onto this angle without knowledge of me being here regardless, right? But say I was right here in the middle of the open, he comes around the corner. A lot of times I like to shoot a burst right away because I could finish him right away with a spray regardless. And right when he sees me, if I'm in the middle of the open, he's going to have to react, shoot, and chances are his reaction is not going to be an insta headshot. If you get insta headshot in this game, guys, you can't always do something about it, but you are moving to stay evasive. So movement is to be evasive, and ducking and standing. Don't think about recoil control. Everyone's always, should I duck, should I stand? No, it's all about being evasive. Do not limit yourself to saying I need to duck or I need to always stand. Practicing fighting more while standing up is good. You could unbind duck when you go in deathmatch, but keep it loose. Just like the same way I'm telling you, don't over focus on these things right when you get into the game. Maybe focus on a couple of this next point I'm going to talk about, which is angles and pre-aim. This is probably the only thing that you guys should be consciously aware of after this lesson, in terms of once you play. When you practice and sit in your server like this, think all you want. Sit there and daydream all day. That's what I do, right? I when I was coming up, a lot more so than now, a lot of my training to go pro was visualization, was premeditating scenarios, was if I get a kill here and I hide, what is the next thing going to happen? Are they going to chase me down or not, and why? Yes, if I'm alone, no, if I'm not, etc. That's right. You can go down the rabbit hole of thoughts. Keep those in the practice server. When you go live, this last topic that I want to talk about, angles and pre-aim, is the only thing that you should slightly be considering, and I'll show you why. So, off angles are probably the #1 key to surprising your enemy and getting more free kills when you're playing Counter-Strike, especially at lower levels or in pickup games, because people are mostly impatient when they're not playing with their team, and their natural impulses take over more. Whenever I do YouTube videos, you guys have seen a lot where I'll sit there and say, this guy's going to peek me in 3, 2, 1. I've played so much Counter-Strike that I know when people are playing with their natural impulses. I can see in their movement. I know that we're playing a pug, and very rarely am I off. It does happen with counting down, because I just know, okay, this guy peeked me and I know that he wants to come at me in 3, 2, 1. I just see him coming through the wall, visualize it enough times that he's going to peek me at a certain time because he's impatient. So if you want to take advantage of those people being impatient, obviously developing your game sense and knowing when to go to these angles is a little bit different video, but this is the difference between on angles and off angles. A lot of you guys know this, but an on angle is any time where two places where you could peek from meet. So the first on angle for this, for archway, would be here, right? Because that's that, right? The next on angle would be here, because that's the next area they could be in, right? From safety, right? There's a lot of area they could be in, but those are the off angles, right? So whenever you're holding an angle, the most guaranteed way to get a free kill is to play an off angle. So this angle is one that they're probably going to peek. Yes, if you have an AWP, yes, if you have a kind of a fallback mentality where you just want to shoot and fall, those are great ways to play that position. But if you want to get a free kill and potentially commit to the fight or get multi-frags, it's a two-part thing. First part, off angles. Second part, pre-aim. So to finish the off angle portion, what you need to be aware of is that you need to choose, and it's actually very easy, in every area, an off angle. So over here, if we were to go, the first on angle is probably balcony, right? Next on angle is probably from porch. The next on angle is there, and then here, right? Those are all angles where they have cover next to where they're standing. So this is an on angle because he could shoot and hide. And up here is an on angle because he could shoot and hide, right? Same exact. You guys get the concept, I hope, at this point. So an off angle would be somewhere in the middle of all these angles. Now, the tough part about porch in particular is you can't really play an off angle in this area because look at, they peek here or here, and that basically takes up this whole area, and then they peek here. So if they peek you here, the only kind of off angle would be like standing like right here, but like it's such a weak off angle in the sense that their crosshair is so close to you. A stronger off angle would be something like this, where here's an on angle, right? And then here's an on angle. So something like this, where you're in between those two angles, is actually an off angle. Or when they're coming up porch, this can be an off angle right away, right? Because this is your first off angle is when they're coming to peek this. And after this, if you don't think they're coming out boiler, you could play this angle, right? Because it's technically an off angle to mid. So if you don't think they're coming out boiler, you could play that. But the first true off angle would be right before that, right? So it'd be like right about here, right? Again, if you don't think they're coming out boiler, if they're coming up mid. Bad example? I don't know. I hope you guys get it. It's just anywhere where there's not two angles that meet that is the safe ones. So here's the on angle, here's the on angle. The off angle is, you guessed it, in between. So in almost every time, it's a triangle, and the middle is the off angle, right? Some areas, though, there's just that middle portion is so small that the off angle is not as strong. So the larger the portion in between the two on angles, the stronger the off angle is going to be. So like this is a pretty strong off angle in Counter-Strike, but it's not that powerful because a lot of times nowadays, like pro players, they peek this and they kind of swing like this. So like if you're standing here, like yes, you have to just hit that first bullet. I hope you guys don't mind me talking a lot. I'm going to take a quick sip, really quick, before I get to my final point. Got my watermelon shot game fuel here. 0 calories, 0 sugars, delicious. All right. The final point to getting free kills and to capitalizing on potentially multi-frags is your pre-aim. And pre-aim is not a one-size-fits-all, and I'll tell you why. You have someone like Brax, for instance, Swag, Counter-Strike Pro, young kid. A lot of you probably know him. New kids, maybe not. You haven't been competing for a bit, playing Valorant now. Anyways, the wide angle here, if I want to hold someone coming around the corner, you got to think about two things, right? One, are they peeking for an on angle or an off angle? If they're peeking for an on angle, the first thing they're peeking for is here, right? So their positioning is probably going to be this or slightly outside this, right? Now, if they're peeking for an off angle, that means they're swinging. Why do people swing? People normally swing because they have a teammate behind them, or because they want to dodge an offer, or because they expect you to play the off angle. So, if the most dangerous one here is if they go wide because they have a teammate, right? Because then you're only getting one kill mostly. So someone like Swag, he likes to do this, where he kind of has the wider off angle. Right here, he plays the off angle, which, right, this is the on angle. So he's right outside, right? There's a bad triangle. He's right outside the lines. Instead of playing here, he plays here because he likes to assume that the guy's going to go wide and snap over. And if it's just one guy, he'll snap over. But he likes this because worst case scenario, if the guy swings tight like this, which a lot of people do, and they go wide, see where he's at here? He's at a point right there where his crosshair's already close to that guy. So you can just kind of shoot. And if another guy comes, it's one motion to the left, right? Small motion potentially here, but one motion to the left. Whereas someone like me, I actually like playing tight here, because if someone just gives me like this peek and they overextend, because some people with this angle will take the wide step on the on angle, which is this, right? Because they're still dodging this angle. So they would be like, the tight step here is here, the wide step on the on angle is this, right? So I like to kill the guy who takes the wide step on the on angle, because a lot of people do that. If they think a guy's arch, they go here. I like to get that kill, because I think it's more reliable for how I shoot. The problem is for me, when I multi-frag now, is if the guy does go tight wide and I go like this, I have to do two movements now, right? And then back left. And I'm comfortable with that because I have the hard pad. But a lot of you who have the cloth pad aren't as comfortable with those small motions. So I'm comfortable going like that. See that? That was very little effort, and I'm already like pretty accurate on the two rough areas I want to be at. A lot of people, it's harder to do that. So if you have a cloth pad and you're not as comfortable with wide peaks, start a little or flicks, start a little wider with your pre-aim, and you'll get more kills. All right, I think I've talked longer than I wanted to about the subject, guys. I hope this helps. I hope you guys get more frags by utilizing off angles and not limiting yourself when it comes to shooting style. And last but not least, when you go live, guys, very subconscious. All these points I made, the only thing you should maybe be thinking about is this angle stuff. Other than that, guys, stay loose, stay extremely confident. You're not going to be hitting your shots if you're not confident. Even if you're playing against better people, play your confident angles, play smart. Confident doesn't mean just run out and die and fight all these guys that are better than you. Play confident, play smart, and I think you'll get more kills utilizing some of these tips, guys. See you next time.